Hey, it's James, Father's Rights and Resources, and how I got custody. I want to talk to you about, the 5 things that I say to CPS or the police if they come knocking on my door. I've mainly dealt with the police for civil standbys during visitation exchanges. I might call the police just to cover my rear because the mother says she's scared of me and all this other things. If the police come out and nothing happens, then there's an incident report, not a full-blown police report, but an incident report or a CAD report, computer entry, that they came and they saw and nothing happened. So, but knowing what I know, my constitutional rights, I'll just rattle them off. If CPS comes knocking on my door saying, hand over your child, or we want to come in and inspect your home because we got a complaint about this or that, or the police say hand over the kid, the mother says it's not your time if there's no parenting plan, or if I'm violating the parenting plan, or they think I am, or whatever. First thing I say is, number 1, do you have a warrant to come into my home? They say no, like they usually don't. Then I say, do you have a writ of habeas corpus, which is basically a warrant for a person? If you're arrested in Florida for shoplifting and you're wanted in Washington for murder, Washington might issue a writ of habeas corpus, a writ to bring the body here. Corpus, bring the body here. The legal industry thinks they're all smart and fancy with all these Latin terms to make themselves feel smart instead of talking plain English. They're stupid. They're so dumb they have to throw words out there to make it look like they're smart in family court. So, number 3, I'll ask them, okay, what law am I violating, or what law gives you the authority to come to my home? Because CPS, nobody can come and violate my right to my kids. The U.S. Supreme Court has plenty of cases for 100 years saying everybody has a right to their children to raise them the way they want without government interference. If there's a debate between the husband and wife, that's their problem. If there's a debate between a husband and wife on who needs to pay the bills or who needs to do the dishes, or if you and your neighbor have a debate about who owns this tree near the property line, you don't call the cops and have them move the tree. If you sue a doctor for malpractice and win $10,000, you don't call the cops and say, go shake down that doctor and get me my money. They don't deal with civil matters. And that's not their authority to do so. So if they come into your civil matter and they want to start taking kids and stuff like that, I ask, what's the crime? And I have an incident that I recently dealt with the police and told them off when a friend called me and I was asking them questions. They had no answers for any of this stuff. And I'll get to that in a second. Then I'll ask, number 4, what if I don't hand over my child? What are you going to do? If they say they're going to arrest me after I went through all that stuff, then they're going to abuse their authority and violate my rights. Then I might just hand over the kid if they're going back to the mother. But if they want to take my kid to CPS, which is basically one of the biggest conduits of child trafficking in the country, I'm not letting my kid go to CPS and get her molested, raped, beat up, lost, disappeared, all that kind of stuff, dead, which has happened on CPS's watch with many kids. So, and number 5, which they always end up doing, CPS or the cops, they end up giving legal advice to people. Well, if you don't hand over the kid, it's going to look bad for you in court, or you might lose out on your visitation. Like what happened to me is civil exchange. They're sitting there telling me, well, you better act right during this exchange. You could lose your visitation. I'm the custodial parent, you prejudicial, presumptuous, judgmental, discriminating, sellout, radical feminist, man-hating, sellout to your own gender. So if they start saying something like that, or they can't take the kid because I just ran them through all those questions, then they'll say, well, you should give the kid back just to keep the peace and something in court. It'll look good in court, or not, it'll hurt you in court if you don't. Then I'll say, oh, you're a lawyer? What's your bar number? And then they'll say, I'm not a lawyer. Well, you just gave me legal advice, and it's a crime to give legal advice if you're not an attorney. And then they'll say, I didn't give you legal advice. I was just telling you it's a good idea to do this. You advise me that if I take this course of conduct, this will be my result in court, in the legal world, in the courtroom. You just advise me on the results that come by what I do if I employ this strategy or whatever. You were speaking legally because you used the word court. You gave me legal advice. Can I have your badge number, please? Usually that shuts them up, and that does it. Now, I completed a more thorough video, part 1 and part 2, on Instagram, where I break this stuff down in detail. How I've used it, what that stuff means, you know, my understanding of law, what the Constitution just straight out says clearly. So, if you want to hear more in depth about this, go to my Instagram. Go on to Instagram, How I Got Custody. There's 4 words running together. How I Got Custody on Instagram. And there's a part 1 and part 2 on the 5 things I say to CPS and cops to get more detail. If you care to support the cause, you can donate at PayPal. There's a link below. If you are interested in getting some one-on-one with me, or if you're like, I don't know about this guy, he sounds shady, you should be suspicious of anybody in family court that's talking about what they know and stuff, and you should make them back up what they say. That's why you can go to my website, which has a link below, and click on Proof of James's Wins, and you will see my winning court orders twice in the Court of Appeals against a 50-year veteran attorney. My parenting plan, when I was facing the mother, her attorney, and an anti-father, radical feminist, man-hating guardian ad litem, Megan Stanley O'Brien, or O'Brien Stanley. Their names are on the signature of that. I got my baby's mom found in contempt the first try. There was one period of time the mother dragged me in court, and I was afraid about going to trial, so I got an attorney. The attorney let me do my own paperwork, and there's a transcript on this same page, Proof of James's Wins. When I did my own paperwork, a judge or a family court commissioner praised my attorney's work, and my attorney turned to me and said, no, James did all that paperwork himself. And he goes, oh, well, maybe he should go to law school, because I briefed him so well on all the subject matter. So there's proof that I know what I'm talking about. And I've worked with over 200 guys. I stopped counting at 200 a couple years ago, because I don't even know an attorney who's helped 10 or 20 guys get custody in a contested case where they're fighting. There's plenty of cases where they settled out of court because the mom wanted him to have custody because she didn't care to have custody. I'm talking about contested fighting cases like mine, where I fought for 7 months until the mother surrendered because she got tired of fighting me, and she wanted to just move on and bail because it wasn't about the kid in the first place. So, if you don't believe what I'm saying, or not sure if I know what I'm talking about, the proof is in the pudding. I've won in court over and over and over again, and I give you proof. If you want to hire an attorney and roll the dice and spending $5, $10, $20, $100,000 just to be an every other weekend dad, when you can go to court blindfolded and get that without saying a word, because that's what they hand out. I don't know why people want to pay an attorney to lose when they can just walk in the court and say nothing and default to this every other weekend half the time. But ask the attorneys. Give me some proof that you know how to fight for fathers. What have you done? Show me some examples. They won't do it, because they're a bunch of hustlers, crooks, and cons, and sellouts, and they're salesmen. Just like Goldberg and Jones, they say divorce lawyers for men. They laugh at that. They use that to get desperate dads in their law office, and a constant revolving door of clients, or just one-time consultations to make easy money. And an attorney I know who used to work there said they laugh at that moniker. Like, we get so many dads in here, and they're full of crap because they don't want to even fight. In my own case, they were the first ones I called. They said, you'll get every other weekend, and we want $5,000 up front. I said, but I work at night, and I live 3 blocks from the mom. I should have my child when the mother's at school instead of a daycare. You'll probably still get every other weekend. Well, I went to court, and I got 5 days a week temporarily, and then I ended up getting custody. Thanks, Goldberg and Jones. And then there's Divorce Lawyers for Men, which is a hustler, crook, and con setup. Those 2 people that run it, Divorce Lawyers for Men, it's just a network. They get 40% of every dollar you give to that attorney for that entire case. Not just one time. And they once had the attorney Raj Baines on there, and he smashed one of his daughter's heads on a countertop and permanently brain damaged her. And that's one of the attorneys they referred people to. So he has a domestic violence or child abuse criminal case. Now he's back to practicing family law because the courts don't care and the Bar Association doesn't care if a lawyer commits a crime or domestic violence. That's Raj Baines in Federal Way, Rajbains. I have his parenting plan where they had a finding that he abuses kids and that there was sexual abuse also. There's a checkbox on there. And that's who divorce lawyers for men referred people to, because all they care about is money. And they pulled them off when I first exposed it on my last website. So that's what you can look forward to for fathers' rights attorneys. Or you can check out my website and see proof that I know what I'm talking about. And you guys know what I'm talking about because I'm not BSing anybody and I don't have any shiny suits or any fancy stuff. I just give you real, raw, straight up truth, and you know it's true. And most guys who don't like me at first because I'm blunt and straight up, because they're being a bunch of sissies and cowards, and they don't like me telling them the truth, that they need a fire lit under their butts so they can actually fight for their kids, they always come back later and say, you were right. I got royally screwed by an attorney. I didn't like you at first, but you told me the truth. You were honest. Can you help me? Can you work with me, etc.? So, you know I'm being honest, but don't believe me just because I say something. Make me back it up and check out my website. Okay, thanks for watching.